Hello and welcome to the WIHS Journal Public Affairs Program. I'm Jerry Williams. Well, it's back. SoulFest, New England's premier multi-day Christian music festival. And recently I caught up with the co-founder, Dan Russell, to talk about this year's SoulFest. That's happening now on the WIHS Journal. It's news and public affairs. Well, here he is. Him and his music festival, they take a licking, but they keep on ticking. It's co-founder of SoulFest, Dan Russell. Dan, how you doing, man?
I'm good. That's a funny cliche you threw at me. You know, it's the 25th year for SoulFest. It's the 25th anniversary this year. We had to take 1 year off for that thing they call the pandemic. But we're temporarily at Topsfield this year for 1 year. That's been a bit of a challenge, you know, when your police bill goes from $12,000 to $56,000 for 3 days. That kind of makes you sit down and pray a little longer.
I didn't know about that. Yeah, that's a big jump.
Well, everything's gone up probably between 100 and 300%, depends on the item.
So you're at beautiful location, Gunstock Mountain Resort, for about 17 years, and now it's going to be at Topsfield, Massachusetts, at the Topsfield Fairgrounds. That's going to be interesting.
Right. It's 20 miles north of Boston. It's rainproof because we have their big horse arena that they say we can fit about 6,000 people in, and so we're cutting it off at $4,250 just to be safe. So we still have tickets left, and we have two other venues that are indoors as well. So for those that didn't like getting wet, this is the year to come.
We're with Dan Russell, co-founder of SoulFest. For those who aren't familiar, I always got to go to the genesis, to the beginning. How did it all begin? What was the vision? Talk about the history of SoulFest.
Well, the vision, just to bring it home, was my mother, who broke 100 pounds after she had her 8th child. And she would tap me on my chest and say, "Don't you condescend to where you came from," growing up in an evangelical family. And I said, okay, well, I'll put something together for the Christian community. But I didn't think that Christians had much of a rapport with their own soul, because there was a lot of unhappy Christians. There were a lot of complainers, a lot of people that were doing nothing but maybe an hour in church on Sunday. And I think the soul-connected believer is effervescent and, you know, prays without ceasing, sees beauty everywhere. And so I developed this idea of, like, I've got to do something to bring Catholics and Protestants together and talk about the soul, our soul. Many Christians think they're bodies with souls. I believe we're souls with bodies. And that is a big paradigm shift in how you see your days. You don't complain as much. So we talk about being a living from the inside out as a soul-connected, risk-taking believer in God's unconditional love for everyone. And that's what we've been doing for about 27 years when we started the mission. And we're going to be celebrating our 25th year this year.
And it's multiple stages. How many stages this year?
There are 4 stages.
Talk about the different stages, because they're different.
Yeah, there's the Deeper Well. That's going to be outdoors in an atrium. There's Mercy Street Cafe. That's going to be where a lot of vendors are, but there's going to be a coffee shop there. And there's the Inside Out stage. We kind of had to contain that in a 700-seat room so we could bring in all kinds of music that's different than the main stage, you know, from Five Iron Frenzy to hip-hop to EDM, Christian EDM, to, you know, rock, power, pop, rock, all that kind of stuff. And then the main stage is called the Revival stage, because that's exactly what we call for every year. We call for people to open themselves up to what God wants them to do. And on that stage, we have We the Kingdom, one of my favorites, Corey Asbury, Torrin Wells. We have about 75 artists and about 35 workshops.
75 artists and 35 workshops, and it wouldn't surprise me that that number would increase by the time SoulFest hit.
Yeah. Well, no, we're just praying, God, no, because behind the scenes of any church or any organization are the people that have to pull it off. And we've got an amazing team, but don't go looking behind the curtain. We're just like 7 days a week for the month of July, 10, 14-hour days, trying to line everything up. And you can tell the devil doesn't want us to get this close to Boston because they're throwing everything at us, the town, everything at us to make it difficult.
Spiritual warfare as usual.
It's real. I mean, a lot of people don't like to talk about it, and a lot of people believe in God but don't believe in the devil. But the father of lies, the great deceiver, has been here since the beginning of man. But we are more than conquerors, right?
Right. Dan Russell, co-founder of SoulFest, is my guest. Volunteers. Are you still in need of volunteers right now?
Yeah, we need some people to help us with the camping management. We need some people in the box office. We have on our website a section that says sign up for volunteers, and that's an application you fill out. But yeah, we always need that. We've got plenty of tickets, single day and multi-days, and lots of upgrades. But this year is going to be special because we're living in a time, I call it the Sodom and Gomorrah tipping point because of what's going on in this world. And so we're coming together to really unify a fight against child trafficking. We're going to be talking about, we have an orphanage that we are involved with in Haiti, and what's going on down there is pretty rough. We're going to have a great time of worship and fellowship, but we're going to drill down on how we each can become more involved in our day-to-day lives in our local communities and on shining God's light, standing against anything that's evil.
Dan, you're a musician yourself, and I understand you have some music out.
Every time I get in the shower, I sing a song, so I try to record them. No, I've worked for 45 years supporting other artists, and I picked artists in my life that if they paid me, that was bonus. And so my own music has been a cathartic part of my prayer with God, and so I say accidentally, but I surprisingly got nominated for a Grammy in the 90s, and somebody turned to me then and said, you ought to stop working for other artists and start working for yourself. And when you work for yourself in music, Jerry, you usually are the one that pays. You don't get paid. So I had a family and an overhead, so I kept working. I worked with artists like U2 and Sam Phillips and The Call, and again, Bruce Coburn, artists that fed my soul. I just started. When I was 60, my son called me. I was in L.A. finishing up a project, and he said, Dad, come home. We have a studio. Let's write some songs. Let's put a band together. Let's go out and do some shows. We get to be together. We can have some fun. We won't make any money, but we can shine some light and enjoy one another's fellowship. And I thought, my son's 25 years old. How many fathers get to hang out with their 25-year-old?
Right.
I jumped into that. He is a multi-talented musician with OCD, so he knows how to mix and record and do all that stuff that I don't have patience for.
Right. It could be perfect, and it's still not right with him.
So we wrestled it out of his hands. I come in and say, look, this song is 4 minutes, 30 seconds. Let's not take longer than maybe a day putting together.
All right, Dad, we'll see.
Yes, if anybody has Spotify out there or goes to YouTube, I have Dan Russell Music is on both channels. Please follow me. I don't know if anybody knows that you get paid 0.0065 cents for every stream. So if I get 1 million streams, they're going to send me $6,500. Kind of crazy, isn't it? So you don't do it for the money. You do it because you got a message God put on your heart. Try to sing it and play it the best you can and get it out there into the ether, get it out there into the world.
And that was Dan Russell, co-founder of SoulFest. Join me tomorrow at the same time for part 2. If you would like more information about what you heard today, call WIHS 860-346-1049, 860-346-1049. It's the WIHS Journal, News and Public Affairs.